and I include myself, we have got to stop demonizing each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I think most of that right now in our country's history is coming, from the right, coming from people who want to dominate.
Yes, Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton on MS-13 DNC this morning on Morning Joke, saying we have to stop demonizing everyone, like all those people on the right do. Bum, 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 bum. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton. She's Hitler, Can't believe a word she said. She what's the name of the guy that she killed and rolled up in the rug? Yeah, tell me about Vince Foster and then get back to me about demonizing people. And a very happy Wednesday to you. Welcome back once again to our humble radio broadcast. We remain at 888-630-9625. Great deal going on in our country and in the world. The president at the United Nations yesterday, 2 people shot by an assassin at an ICE facility in a sniper ICE facility, Dallas, Texas area, and he has killed himself, shot and killed himself. And I'm assuming it's a him. I heard that the gunman, I heard that they always use the word shooter, but I still think a shooter is, like a delicious one-shot drink, like a kamikaze, something like that. Sex on the beach, things like that's a shooter. This is a killer, an assassin, a gunman, a sniper. But I don't lighten it up with the, shooter. That's my nickname in my car club. See, that's a reference to an obscure movie at this point, Bill Murray. But that's not important. Let's get back to the news of the day because there's so much of it swirling around. Again, Dominican Republic seizes 1,000 kilos, like 2,200 pounds of cocaine, off of one of the drug boats out of Venezuela that the Trump administration ordered to be struck from the air. And the Dominican Republic says, yeah, it's full of cocaine, just like the Trump people said. So the Democrats will now stop talking about it. I don't think Jimmy Kimmel will talk about this on his propaganda broadcast that ABC pays him $16 million a year to do. Isn't that great? The Democrats put up a statue of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump holding hands right on the National Mall with the Capitol behind them because they've got a lot of illnesses, and that is one of them. Isn't that something? Yes, it is. I also see a headline today that, President Trump, he announced that he's going to give Charlie Kirk posthumously, of course, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And today we're learning also that President Trump plans to honor Dr. Ben Carson, the world-renowned pediatric neurosurgeon, that is to say brain surgeon, with the Presidential Medal of Freedom as well. And I've got to say, it's a good time to get Pat Buchanan in there for the Presidential Medal of Freedom as well. Hey, Mr. President, Presidential Medal of Freedom for Pat Buchanan. Good idea. Got to do that. That's good stuff. And the president and the first lady at the so-called United Nations yesterday in New York, the city that never sweeps. And you saw that they shut off the escalator the moment that Melania Trump's feet set foot on the escalator with the president directly behind her, a half a step behind her, boarding the escalator. And the escalator was working. You can see it moving along. People in front of them on the steps being escalated up on the escalator until the very moment when the First Lady and the President himself set foot on the escalator, and then the escalator stopped, came to a screeching halt, right? And then the teleprompter didn't work at the United Nations, and President Trump talked about that. We had a soundbite that we used of him yesterday, actually. Everybody was using it last night, long after we used it. We used it in real time, but the president pointing out what a great job the United Nations was doing and how they should move to Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso.
All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the two things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter.
These are the two things we got from the United Nations last night, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. And that's it. And again, the White House Communications Agency, WHCA, WHCA, it's run by military, U.S. military people. They're on our side generally, except for, like that guy that set himself on fire at the Israeli embassy and killed himself. He was in the Air Force, but that's not important. So the left-wing radical extremists at Mediaite, they have the headline, UN spokesman, how do you know it's a man, says Trump's team at fault for escalator and teleprompter snafus. Standard, normal, all fouled up. It's an acronym, snafu. There's another way you can phrase it, too, but we're on the radio and we're in polite company. So when President Donald Trump encountered technical difficulties with the escalator and then the teleprompter during his visit to the United Nations headquarters Tuesday, the White House was quick to blame UN employees and demand an investigation. According to a UN spokesman, however, the Trump administration should be looking for the culprits within their own ranks. There must be Democrats working there. Trump and the First Lady, Melania Trump, were at the UN building Tuesday when the president would deliver an hour-long speech, which was great and world-class, to the UN General Assembly that lambasted other member nations, that included a number of false claims that were swiftly fact-checked. Yeah, but I'll fact-check them, and it'll turn out that they're true enough. When the president and his wife arrived at the UN building, they walked toward the escalator, but it stopped suddenly right after they stepped on it. After pausing for a few moments, they, led by Melania Trump, wonderful Melania Trump, they continued walking up the escalator, now that it was temporarily a set of stairs. During Trump's speech, the teleprompter was also faulty, and he complained about having a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Now, the left-wingers at Mediaite, they're left-wingers, so they lie about everything. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt blamed the UN, well, naturally, demanding an investigation and saying if any employees were found to be responsible, they should be fired. Now, I want to go to Caroline Leavitt because she was on, which was she on? Jesse Waters. She was on Jesse Waters. And she was asked about the president's visit to the United Nations. And I thought she summed it up so well that I asked Michael Piercy if he could grab that from the TV last night.
There was some concerning reporting over the weekend from the London Times, as you pointed out, that UN globalist staffers were basically plotting to set up the president of the United States. And first it was the escalator, then it was the teleprompter, and then Katie Pavlich from Town Hall, who we offered a seat in the press pool to cover the president's historic speech today, noticed that the audio inside of the room was much lower and different for the president of the United States than the previous speaker. So when you put all of this together, it doesn't look like a coincidence to me.
When you put all this together, it doesn't look like a coincidence to me. And here's, this is key, and she made reference to it. The Times of London, that is a newspaper of some repute, as I understand it. The Times of London reported on Sunday, that's 2 days before Tuesday, that's for Democrats following along, they reported talking to United Nations employees and the United Nations staffers that they were already talking about shutting down the elevators and escalators when the president arrived, and they were talking out loud about booby-trapping the president's visit to the United Nations, and then, sure enough, the president arrived 2 days later, 2 days after the Times of London reported that employees at the United Nations were looking to booby-trap the president and try to create embarrassing moments by shutting down the escalator. And sure enough, as soon as Melania set foot first on the escalator, they shut it down, and the president's right there. And they walked it off because they know that the commies are in the works. And here is the the wonderful White House press secretary.
And I know that we have people, including the United States Secret Service, who are looking into this to try to get to the bottom of it. And if we find that these were UN staffers who were purposefully trying to literally trip up the president and the first lady of the United States, well, there better be accountability for those people. And I will personally see to it.
And I will put another thing on your plate. I got to tell you, but that is this is the it's the Democrat Party writ large, no doubt about it. And again, the Times of London 2 days prior said, based on people they were talking to at the United Nations, this is a newspaper out of London, England, and they were saying, well, we're looking at creating incidents like shutting down the elevators, they said, and the escalators, they said. And then the president arrived, and guess what happened? Isn't that shocking? Kind of hard to imagine, or not, because this is the Democrat Party. And, they've been screaming and yelling about the First Amendment and Jimmy Kimmel and all this stuff. And we found out overnight, by way of Congress, by the way, in a congressional investigation, that the Biden administration was using the power of the federal government to shut down free speech of conservatives and Republican voters, of course. The Biden administration targeted Google and YouTube and shut people down. And now Google and YouTube are coming out and saying, we're sorry. We're being pressured by the Biden White House, the Biden administration, by Biden's people to crush and trample free speech in the United States of America. This is what Google is saying and what YouTube is saying. And YouTube is saying they're going to restore the accounts that they were forced to shut down at gunpoint by the criminals in the Democrat administration. Just extraordinary, I got to say. So the amazing stuff. Caroline Leavitt tweeting out yesterday, just played sound bites of her. And the Times of London wrote on Sunday, to mark Trump's arrival, UN staff members have joked that they may turn off the escalators and elevators and simply tell him they ran out of money, so he has to walk up the stairs, because the president announced we'd be cutting some money from these corrupt criminal operations that the UN operates, where they buy private planes and their sons put their Jaguars and Ferraris on the private planes and they fly to Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso, where they have child sex rings going, and we've been paying for it all. President Trump said we're going to, sorry, we ran out of money. The escalators don't work anymore. That's because they're third world tree dwellers, and the Democrat Party's in bed with them. And Caroline Leavitt tweeted out the link to the Times of London story with the UN staff members have joked that they may turn off the escalators and elevators. And then you've got the ridiculous story from Mediaite saying, the UN officials say you should blame the White House and blame Trump because they're the third world. They are the third world. And so is the Democrat Party, for that matter. And Caroline Leavitt tweeted out the link, the White House press secretary, wonderful as she is, and said, if someone at the UN intentionally stopped the escalator as the president and first lady were stepping on, they need to be fired and investigated immediately. The Times reported this on Sunday, and then it happened on Tuesday. Could be a coincidence, I suppose, but I doubt it. And this is the left. The left, filthy criminals, thieves, mass murderers, commies and socialists, because the goal of socialism is, of course, communism, as we know, don't we? We learned that from Lenin, Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, a.k.a. Lenin, the Bolshevik Soviet revolutionary that Bernie Sanders worked with, I think, as a young man, didn't he? The big wireless companies are pulling one over on all of us, and it's time to make the switch to consumer cellular. I made the switch. I'm getting the same fast, reliable, nationwide big wireless coverage without the big wireless cost every month. It's not just about saving money every month on my bill, although that's good. It's about not being used and abused by the big, nasty corporations, the cell phone companies. Do you have any idea how much data you use every month? I have no idea, speaking for myself. Most people over 50 use less than 8 gigs of data in a month, but if you're 19 years old, you might use 10 times that much. And the big wireless companies shove us all into an unlimited data plan because they want to redistribute our payments to cover the cost of some people who use a lot more data than we do. And if you're not using all that data, you are the one being used, sorry to report. And when you've had enough of that, make the switch to Consumer Cellular. They set me up with a service and a beautiful phone with a great camera, and it's so easy to make the switch. You talk to an actual person on the phone, not a robot and a touchpad, based right here in the United States, not on a space platform over Indonesia. Real human beings who are actually helpful. Only takes about 20 minutes to make the switch, and then you're happy at the end of every month. So give them a call and make the switch today at 800-760-0702. 800-760-0702. Yeah. All right, and I haven't gotten to Jimmy Schwimmel yet. That's coming up. Oh, yeah, it's mailbag day, too. It's Wednesday. It's hump day in the Clinton house. Hillary waking up face down in a pool of her own dried vomit today. Got to get out of the house real quick, lickety-split, because it's hump day in the Clinton household. But it's mailbag day here at the Chris Plant Show. And let us go to the telephones, Michael, before we get to Kimmel and the mailbag. Let's go to Patty, calling from Woodbridge, Virginia. Patty, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey there, Chris. This can be really quick. 25 years ago in my circles, Tylenol, you never took Tylenol. Before my years of, being pregnant in that period in my life, but Tylenol would destroy your liver or your kidneys. Pretty common knowledge in certain kind of crazy avant-garde circles. But it was, we all knew Tylenol was toxic way back then. I, of course, never took it when I was pregnant, but I taught school and taught special ed, and I did not know a lot about autism. I perhaps had some children in my class, but I wasn't aware of it. I can very, very quickly tell you about Ritalin. You've probably heard of that very quickly.
Sure.
I had this darling Joey, drove me nuts. Typical little boy, just drove me nuts. Very bright. Well, parents were advised. They put him on Ritalin. Child showed up in class drooling. It was pathetic and sad. But I didn't know much about autism. That's the truth. But I really knew about Tylenol. This is no big shock.
No breaking news to you. Fascinating. I've got more on this coming up, too. Thank you very much, Patty. I was looking at, Jimmy Kimmel's salary. I read in more than a couple of publications that it's $16 million a year. $16 million a year. And then I looked and I asked Michael, and he's not real good with math, so I might have to double check this. But how many paychecks do you get a year? How many paychecks do you get? Every 2 weeks, right? So 2 a month, and there are 12 months, so you get 24 paychecks a year. Is that right? Might be some variation on that, but so I took the $16 million a year and I divided it by 24 paychecks, and you know how much that is per paycheck? $666,666 and 666 cents. 0.6. That's just a coincidence, I think, probably having nothing to do with Satan or after-school Satan Club or anything like that. Isn't that amazing? And we were listening to Jimmy Kimmel, audio from Jimmy Kimmel. He came back to his TV show last night because ABC Disney, apparently they decided that they have control over the First Amendment and not the FCC and the Trump administration, who said practically nothing having anything to do with this. Oh, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. Oh, no, Disney was so afraid that they temporarily suspended Jimmy Kimmel from his $16 million a year job because they only pay left-wingers, the networks, all the networks only pay left-wingers millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars every year to disseminate the Democrat Party's talking points and their propaganda and to cross-dress. I think a lot of them cross-dress. But that's part of the thing. So we were looking at that. And then we were listening to Jimmy Kimmel for last night. I want to share some of that with you right now. And he said, and he got a little fake weepy, a little fake teary-eyed. And that's because he's thinking about, this Friday, he's scheduled to get his $666,666 paycheck. And he's thinking, what if I don't get my satanic paycheck this Friday? What am I going to do? My illegal aliens are depending on me. So let's go to, where does that all begin, Michael? Starts at number 9. Number 9. And we're going to go back to the President of the United States at the United Nations yesterday as well. He talked about a lot of stuff. So here is Schwimmy Kimmel, who was back on the TV last night. And, actually, let's go to what started the whole thing, because he denies that he said what he said, as the Democrats are doing. Well, he didn't really say that the killer, the assassin, was a MAGA guy. I've had liberals say that to my face, and I just shake my head, and then I wave my hand, and the sniper takes them out. It's kind of a weird deal that I've set up, but I'm kidding. That doesn't really happen. But here's Jimmy Kimmel, the line that started it all.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Yeah, the MAGA gang trying to score political points. This kid, that's the assassin. Most political assassins, have been in their early 20s. We didn't call them kid. It was the Democrat that assassinated Martin Luther King was the exception. I think he was 39 or 40 years old. But as a rule, they're all in their early 20s. So there it is. Yeah, the MAGA gang spent the weekend trying to characterize this kid who has anything other than one of them, right? Meaning one of the MAGA people. Clearly it was a MAGA person who killed Charlie Kirk, was what Jimmy Kimmel was saying. And the brain-addled, hallucinogen-taking crowd of SEALs, they clapped their demented hands because they're Democrats, And then last night he came back on television, Jimmy Kimmel did, to his $16 million job. I know I keep saying, and then he says, I never meant to say what you think I said. You can't just take what I said at face value and pretend that I said what I said. No, I'm a liberal, and therefore I get to say, I'm a leftist. Therefore, I get to say things today and then tomorrow say, I never said that. And you say, here's the videotape. Here's you saying it. Said, no, that's not what I said. Because, you have to make the lie so big that even Joseph Goebbels would not dare to not believe it. Jimmy Kimmel last night.
I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man.
It was never my intention. Now he's choking up. He's got real choked up. And it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. And you can't say that it was. Sure. Now, that reminded me, because I have a memory that works pretty well. And Michael Piercy and I started talking about it. I said, I remember Jimmy Kimmel making fun of the assassination of a healthcare CEO, United Healthcare CEO, by Luigi Mangione. And I said, Michael, this morning I said to Michael Piercy, didn't we play some audio of Jimmy Kimmel back, having a good time and making light of the assassination of the father of two and the loving husband and the CEO who had worked hard all his life and kept his nose clean? And sure enough, we had the audio in our secret bank, and the NSA will be coming for it now. And this was Jimmy Kimmel's show the day after, or a couple of days after, Luigi Mangione, the CEO murderer, assassin, gunman in New York City, became another hero of the Democrat Party.
So many women and so many men are going nuts over how good-looking this killer is. These are screen grabs of actual exchanges. Do you guys think the United Healthcare CEO killer is hot? Friend replies, yes. I love Luigi. I think he's gay, though. This is an exchange.
Oh, see, and they're all laughing it up. And, hey, Luigi, he's a CEO killer. He's an assassin. And we're going to have some good, happy, wholesome, sexually demented fun with the killer.
That's it. Please tell me you're as obsessed as I am with this handsome CEO killer. Yes, so many questions. Like, can I fix you? And Veronica says, I need him so bad. No, like so bad. So bad. Okay, so I would visit him in prison and bake him cookies maybe. Perhaps more, but I haven't thought that far ahead.
Now, Kimmel explained he started reading text messages from his staffers, from his employees on the television show, and what they were saying to each other about wanting to have sexual relations with the killer, the assassin of the healthcare CEO, who never did anything wrong and was a perfectly squeaky clean guy.
Our staff today, I have never experienced anything like this. These are screen grabs of actual exchanges, and it's not just women. This is from the husband of one of our staffers. Did you see the assassin? Yes, I'm so upset.
Now, they were having a good time with the assassin, Luigi Mangione, and they're talking about oiling him up and taking him home for Thanksgiving and how much they love him. And their male staffers and their female staffers really want Luigi to be their own. And that was all fine. So it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man, he said last night while pretending to choke up.
Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual.
Yeah.
That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make. But I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way.
You couldn't reverse the situation. There is no way to reverse the situation. You guys go around killing people because you're the left and you love killing people. So, and again, I didn't intend to. You said, oh yeah, and these MAGA gang, they're spent the weekend desperately trying to characterize this kid, calls him a kid, as the guy who killed Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them. Yeah. So it's really unclear. Maybe I'm just unclear on what you said. Maybe I don't understand the words in the English language either, like all Democrats all the time. Jimmy Kimmel last night, oh no, he certainly didn't want to blame any specific group. No chance of that.
I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution.
Doesn't represent anyone.
Ever.
Doesn't represent anyone. It doesn't. That's the just muddy the waters, and it's not one of us. It's not one of them. I said it was one of them when we know it's one of us. You know, the lefties, and now I'm just going to do whatever I can to confuse matters and muddy the waters. Jimmy Kimmel he's back.
That's what I wanted to say on that subject, but I don't want to make this about me and I know this is what people say when they make things about them, but I really don't. This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
Yay! Yeah, what's really important is we live in a country that allows me to do a show like this and get $666,000, $666 paychecks every 2 weeks, and for making up communist propaganda and spreading disinformation and misinformation, which, remember, the Democrats used to pretend to be against. I played some audio yesterday of Hillary Clinton saying that people that spread misinformation and disinformation should face civil charges and maybe criminal charges. That's what the communist ankle lady said. Isn't that amazing? And that's just fine. And she's back. So Jimmy Kimmel, he was back last night and pretending to care and lying. And, I had the audio of him having fun with the CEO assassin who shot a man in the back on the sidewalk in New York and murdered him because he's with a healthcare insurance company.
And one more from a young woman in our segment department, texting all my friends in New York that I hope they get called to jury duty. God, I want to do jury duty so bad.
The assassin. Oh, I want to be because I want to be close to him because he's the assassin. And this is the Democrat Party in 2025. This is ABC Network in 2025. It also, by the way, is NBC Network and MSDNC, also known as MS-13 DNC. And it's also CBS, for that matter, and CNN. And, the liberalism is a mental illness in 2025. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, I don't want to make this about me. Sure, I want to make this about me. Then Kimmel got all emotional because the widow of Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk, she very publicly forgave the assassin in the Christian tradition, and Jimmy Kimmel tried to poach, steal, co-opt, and lie about all of that.
Sunday, Erica Kirk forgave the man who shot her husband. She forgave him. That is an example we should follow.
Whoa, yeah. You should all forgive me.
In the teachings of Jesus, as I do,
yeah,
there it was. That's it. A selfless act of grace, forgiveness from a grieving widow. It touched me deeply. And I hope it touches many. And if there's anything we should take from this tragedy to carry forward, I hope it can be that, and not this. So thank you for listening, and I'll have more to say when we come back.
Yes. What's the old line? Acting is about sincerity, right? Once you can fake that, you've got it made. And that's what we witnessed there. That was completely fake, phony, contrived. It's about his satanic paychecks every 2 weeks, and isn't that just great? On MSDNC this morning, they had Willie Geist. Willie Geist was on there, and Hillary Clinton was on. And now it gets more ridiculous because they're still talking about censorship, because the head of the FCC said, with the public airwaves comes a public duty, public responsibility. If you're going to have the airwaves licensed to you to irradiate all of our children and then give them Tylenol in the womb, but never mind that. Willie Geist and Hillary Clinton this morning, and and Hillary is demented and crazy. Even Bill can't stand being close to her anymore.
Another domestic issue right now is free speech. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Kimmel is the latest flashpoint. He was back on the air last night. I'm curious, though, what you think of the bigger picture of what's happening around free speech. The President of the United States going after explicitly people they view as political enemies or opponents and silencing those voices.
Yeah, political enemies.
How
Jimmy
dangerous
Kimmel.
do you view that moment to be?
How dangerous?
I view it as very dangerous.
Very
it is
dangerous.
Right out of the authoritarian playbook, Willie. I mean, this is, this is point 4 of the authoritarian playbook. Silence your opponents. Cripple the media that doesn't give you the slavish attention and agreement that you
that you're
desire.
so accustomed to, that you're entirely accustomed to. Aren't you amazing? There's more of that lunatic. And then we just learned overnight, by way of a congressional investigation, that the criminals of Joe Biden's criminal administration were using the power of the government to stifle conservative speech by way of Google and Google algorithms, by way of YouTube banning accounts for political reasons, and, of course, the Democrats in the administration she worked in, the Obama administration, since she was never president, where they use the IRS against their political enemies, Tea Party groups and patriot groups, to cripple them and keep them out of politics because they're fascists and they're communists, as there's really no daylight between the two. Hitler's party was called the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany, just by the way. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier is finally here, and the third generation builds on the incredible success of the previous generations, and they had already gathered up thousands of 5-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet, became a bestseller in no time. The new Thunderstorm uses 2 technologies that studies have shown help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses floating in the air in your home, in your office. Also removes dust and pet dander and smoke and all kinds of stuff from the air, and helps get rid of any stinky odor That's right. Stinky odors. The thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky smell, guaranteed. Odors from trash cans and kitty litter boxes and cigarette smoke and liberal protesters that may visit your house. Musty basements, no match for the Eden Pure thunderstorm. And the smells will disappear in a matter of seconds. Also, because we hang out together right now, you can save $200 American dollars when you get an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. Put one in your basement, your bedroom, your teenager's room, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code CHRIS3, C-H-R-I-S, and the number 3 to save $200 on 3 thunderstorms. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. Ah, yes. A little Steely Dan. Not so bad. All right, we've got more Hillary, Diane, and the lefties and the lefty media lying. They may not even know that they're such big liars, but I do, and I'll explain it. Now, Hillary, Diane, Rodham Clinton on Hump Day, she had to get out of the house in Chappaqua, New York, because Bill has the Energizer coming over or something. But they're lying about everything. Now, the FCC did not take Jimmy Kimmel off the air. And if the FCC did take Jimmy Kimmel off the air, was it the FCC that put Jimmy Kimmel back on the air? They're anti-intellectual. Hillary Clinton.
I've said a million times, I mean, good Lord, the things that have been said about me, the lies that have been propagated.
What lies?
If I had only known, I could call up the FCC chair and say, take this person off the air. Get that person out of my sight, off with his head.
That didn't happen. None of that happened. Nobody called the FCC chair and said, get that man off the air. And the FCC chair didn't get that man off the air. The FCC chair merely mentioned in the course of a conversation on a variety of issues that Jimmy Kimmel had said this on the air. And then ABC and Disney, Megacorp, they decided to temporarily suspend him, and he's back on the air. And he's going to get his satanic paycheck on Friday. And they just lie about it. They're psychopathological liars. Hillary Clinton is one of them. She should call the FCC about that, because it's provably true.